Now I'd like to further comment on each of these slide boards. I'm talking about the professional slide board, the original slide board, and we're looking at the bumper because when we push off in ice hockey, the player extends to the side and they tilt the skate. If we were to leave our foot straight up and down, like this to the side, we were to stride and the foot stays flat on the ground, that's not how, it puts too much strain on the ankle joint. It's not how we skate. We tilt our foot at an angle. So what's nice about this professional slide board is that the bumper right here is angled and it has a lip up top so that the foot won't slip off, where sometimes the slide boards, the players slip off and they fall down. We want to minimize risk of injury. So then we're talking about having the player get used to just sliding and moving. And what's nice about this professional slide board is that the bumper is easily adjustable. With just a tap of the foot, we can pick up this bumper and make it wider for longer strides. We can tap it again, move it out for even longer strides. And then one more time, we can tap it out for the full use of the 8-foot board. One more feature about this board is that these bumpers are also on an angle. I personally would like to see more of an angle. I would like to see something on a bumper that had more of an angle like this, because when we push off out in the ice, our foot is at an angle. And so there's just one way that I would improve it if I were doing it myself. And what we say then is, because these bumpers are slightly at an angle, this direction is for forward skating, and this direction is for backward skating. And that would go true for any of the slide boards that have bumpers that are at an angle. This next slide board here was first made by Active Sports Medical, and it's now sold by Fitter, fitter1.com. So here, this is similar to the professional slide board in that it's an 8-foot board. It's an easily adjustable board. These two have to be the best because they're so easily adjustable, where we can just pull them out and go. We can tap that in, pull them out and go. Tap it in, pull it out and go. The actual slide bumper itself is also slightly angled. I would say not enough. It is angled in, I should say slightly tilted. It's angled in, but you know, for what I would like to see, I'd like to have more of an angle like this. And it does have a lip, a small lip. It's not as tall as the other one, so the foot could slip off if the player doesn't push in with the outside of the foot. So again, it's very good board because this one is easily adjustable. It's the Fitter board. Now we're going to take a closer look at the Ultra Slide board. This is a heavy-duty, sturdy, commercial weight slide board, and it first came out more towards the speed skating market. It's used by hockey skaters and figure skaters as well too. Some of the advantages of this nice Ultra Slide board is that it has a very angled bumper. I like this better than any of the bumpers because the angle is more like skating when you make that push, okay? But there is no stop on the top for this. So some players can come up and their foot can slip over the top, and that would be dangerous because we could fall. And the nice thing about it, again, is that it's adjustable. The only problem is that it's adjustable by unscrewing. And when you're tired at the end of the rep, you're not going to want to take a ton of time to unscrew while you're breathing heavy and re-screw it in to get ready for the next rep. That would be the process. The other neat thing about it is that you have the choice. You can switch the bumper to the other side so that you are now pushing on a flat side instead of an angle. Could be good for some of the exercises that we're going to show you, but again, this is not as hockey specific because the ankle is not tilted. I should do it on this side. Tilted like we do when we stride on the ice. So advantages and disadvantages. This is the Ultra Slide board. Now we're taking a look at the G1 slide. This could be one of the best slide boards on the market for two reasons. First is the length. This is the only slide board that we're showing that has a 10-foot length for power and long strides. This is for maybe older players, professional college players, and it also has the portability. It rolls up real quick into the duffel bag. We can use this in the hotel, we can take it to the rink, we can use it at home. So for those two reasons, it's fantastic. Now, we're looking at the bumpers. We've been talking about having a bumper that's tilted. This bumper is not tilted, like we push off on the ice. And we'd like to have a bumper that's angled. It's not angled, it's a flat bumper. But it is an adjustable bumper, which is really fantastic. With a slight tap of the foot, we can tap these bumpers and lift it out, and we can move it in at 1 foot increments. We can move it in here, we could move it in here, and we could as well, we could move this in on both sides. There's no slide board on the market yet where you can move it in on both sides. Like this, is that this comes out, it locks in here, it locks in here, and it locks in at another 1 foot increment. So this could be used for younger players, short, quick strides, and older players at the same time. There's another unique feature about this G1 slide, and that is the patented disc that they have on here. So what you can do is you can put this disc on the board, and now you're going to push off a bar, a disc, that's not so stable. It makes you have to use your core more, and also the foot could slip. You could push off and slip like that because the disc spins. So it's very important that we make a proper push and we lock in on that disc. Players can push off with the weight on the ball of the foot. They can push off with the disc right in the middle of the foot, and they could also push off with the weight on the heel. So it provides them 3 ways to push. And then I could show you a quick exercise where we actually do 2 discs and 1 bar. You can see the difficulty that happens when you're sliding with the discs versus the bar. And this is the G1 slide board. Another great slide board that has been developed is the G1 Extreme, made by J. Kirk and Golder One. First, this has fantastic elements for goaltender training. We're talking about a new invention, which is the ability to push off on these discs. And here a goaltender can slide across at an angle, out, across, up, over. They can slide all the way back. They could go across the crease. They could move all over. And there's a clip that we'll show you here next where goaltenders are able to put booties, if you will, or covers over their goaltending pads, and they can slide across and do all kinds of goalie training exercises. As well, we've talked about the patented technology with the discs, so it slips and it creates more of a core training. Players have to learn to push off right, but it has the flexibility to be used as a slide board like other boards with these bars. So we can take and put these bars in, and they're adjustable at different distances. So this turns right into a slide board where we're stepping side to side. We can move these bumpers out farther, and we can get the full effect of the slide board. And now we're sliding side to side. We can move the bumpers out again one more time on each side to make this the full 8-foot slide board. Another fantastic training tool with more versatility because of the increased bumpers and use for multiple players. We're now taking a look at the Extreme Training Slider made by Loomer Products. This board is so nice because it's the most easily portable. It rolls up and fits into this small duffel bag, so we can take it for portable training wherever we want to go, in our hotel room, on the road, to the ice rink, to the home. Some of the hard body ones are a little more difficult to move around. This one has bumpers that are straight up and down, so they're not angled. That's not good. And they're not tilted, and they're also not at an angle. So there'd be some points that would be weak there. It is adjustable, which is important. It is adjustable though by unscrewing. So what we have to do in between reps, when we're breathing hard and we're worried about getting enough rest, we'd have to take this off, lift this up, lift the whole mat up here, and take the bar out and re-put it into the new space and screw it on. You can see that the time it would take to do that, if you want to do a 30-second rest, or you want to do a 1-minute rest and you're breathing really hard and you're tired, it's going to be really hard to change that on your own. But you sacrifice that for the portability of the board. And then we can use this to slide just like the other boards. Another great option for using the slide board training. I want to make sure before we get into the individual exercises that coaches and players understand the benefits of slide board training. It's not utilized enough. Slide board training can help develop knee bend and leg strength, because you can't push off on here keeping your legs straight. You have to bend your knees. Players will, and the more knee bend they get, even to extreme levels of knee bend, that's push off power. We've already seen it in our on ice DVDs that the more you bend your knees, the more power you put in each stride. It's probably the #1 thing in skating speed is knee bend. From knee bend, we get strength. We can also use the slide board for stride length. We've talked about how we move it out, so now we're striding longer. We can even move it in for short, quick strides, because we use both in the game. We can use this slide board for stride frequency. So we're going to show you over the course of these exercises how we do stride frequency, where we time a player, and we time them in 30 seconds at each distance. And we'll see the goal is to get a stride per second. So you'll see 30 strides in 30 seconds. Sometimes you'll see more or less, and we can monitor that. We can increase stride frequency. We can use this with plyo ball throws, so we're doing plyometrics. We can use this for conditioning. And you'll see all kinds of great exercises. This is a must for every player that's playing ice hockey, and it's a lot of fun. So let's get started. To start off training on the slide board, we want to talk about arm swing. Many players don't coordinate their body movements properly. We see players skate like this, and that's actually the opposite arm swing pattern. So first, just to get players balanced and used to it, we try to have them make the slide board movement with their hands on their hip. They're sliding back and forth, and just focus on the push off. From here, we want to get a full coordinated body movement. And we're looking for this. The leg that's on the bumper, the foot that's on the bumper, that side of the body, that arm should be behind the back. This other arm should be out in front. And as we push, we're going to throw this arm forward. We're going to throw the outside arm forward. Now, it's not exactly straightforward, because we don't swing our arms like this, straight front to back, nor do we do that when we skate. It would look awkward if I had my hands like this. That's not how we stride. We don't want the players to swing their arms side to side, because we're not shoveling and we don't skate that way on the ice. We're not going to go like this. That's going to be wrong. What we do is we move our arms in a curvilinear pattern. So it's slightly crossing the front of the body and behind. This is the purest sense of skating with no gloves and no sticks. It would be similar to speed skating, and the left foot's on the bumper, the left hand's back. I push, I slightly cross my body. I want to have an opposite leg movement to the arm movement. If the leg is pushing off to the side, then the arm has to swing slightly to the side. And then it looks like this. We're now talking about using the slide board with our sticks and gloves. We're always trying to make the dryland training exercises as close to, if not exactly, like the on-ice movements. So there's many different ways that we skate on the ice, and we can skate with two hands on the stick. Let's just address this right away. It's interesting to note, when we skate with two hands on the stick, we do not move our arms front to back. You can't when you're holding the stick with two hands. You slide your hands slightly across your body. If you had a puck, you'd be cupping the stick over, you'd be moving it slightly across your body. So you see the arms here are just moving right in front, side to side. They're not moving front to back. So we have a tendency of skating like speed skaters when we're swinging our arms. We do swing our arms when we have one hand on the stick. And one hand on the stick could be just skating, so it's in front of our body, or it could be skating with the puck. So the stick would be out to the side, and we'd see that arm swing come slightly across the body with the free hand, okay? And the other hand that holds the stick doesn't move that much, comes down low. It doesn't go all the way across the body up in the air. It's a different arm pattern for the hand that holds the stick on the top and the free hand. And then we also want to discuss the two-hand push. We don't want to have the stick with two hands up in the air and twist around our body. We don't want to see this where we're twisting, or we see players baling hay. They're digging from down to up. If they did have two hands on the stick and they did have their stick off the ice, it would be here in front and it would be slightly to the side, to the side, to the side, ready to catch that pass, ready to shoot. So there is a difference there with that two-hand movement. Again, we don't want the twisting with two hands, and we don't want the shoveling with two hands. We just have that light side to side movement, and that's arm swing. We're still talking in this section about technique on the slide board, and now we're talking about the technique of whether we skate forwards or backwards. If we had a more severe angle, which I'd like to see with this bumper at an angle, it would be even more evident to you, but it's at a slight angle. So I'm saying that this direction, I'm facing forwards. I'm working on forward skating because it's at a slight angle, the bumper is. And then this direction, I'm skating backwards. I'm working on backward skating. Now we're going to talk about the different ways that we can push off on these bumpers. So first, we could just leave our foot straight. So now the emphasis, the force, is being created from the gluteus maximus minimus and the quad and the thigh. We're just pushing and keeping the leg straight, pushing and keeping the leg straight. So the other way, the second way to do this, is to push with the ankle to actually make a push-off and snap the toe out to the side. So here we're working on what's called on the ice the toe flick, the extra push at the end. It's important to know that it's a small push, that most of the power comes from the glute and the quad, and maybe 10% or less comes from the toe flick. So we really want to emphasize these muscles first, and then as well train a little of the toe flick. Now we're going to start to take a look at the different stride patterns we can use. And this first one has to deal with a strong athletic stance. An athletic stance is always with the feet shoulder width wide or slightly wider, and the knees bent, the hands up, ready to catch a ball and move. We're going to take and put our hands on our hips, and the recovery part, what we're looking at, is a minimal or no recovery. So we're pushing off, and right away pushing, 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 pushing. This is actually a very important stride pattern that's missed out on the slide board. Players are constantly driving around a player, and they have to take that outside leg and just push and push and push. We don't always have a full recovery and a long stride, so this is great for getting more power on the ice. And real quick, we're just pushing, 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 pushing. And then we want to keep that same stride pattern, but do it at a wider distance. And so we could easily move the bumper out, minimal or no recovery, and push, 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 push. And we could do it again even wider. It involves a little more of a slide, and it's still minimal, no recovery. On this next section here, we're going to take a look at stride recovery. So 3 different patterns we can have. We're striding across, we can stride so that we bring our leg back together. It would be like this. We stride and we bring our feet all the way back together so they're touching. Then we can do a stride pattern where we recover and we bring the leg behind our skate. So we're going to be swinging the leg out behind, and it would look like this. The last one is a stride pattern where we recover by swinging the leg out in front. It's actually a little more of an athletic move and more of a figure skating technique for when they skate backwards. But it would look like this. And that's stride recovery. Now we're going to take a look at the difference between short strides and long strides. We already looked at a very quick push in the athletic stance. This is 1 foot further, and then this is for short, quick strides. And you see the speed change here. It looks like this. And then as well, we want to look at long strides. So this involves the most sliding, and this is on an 8-foot board. Someone my size and with the power, I really need a 10 or 12-foot board to practice my long stride, but this is it on an 8-foot board. Now we're talking about duration. This is the part where we physically start to train the athlete. We talked about doing 1 stride per second. So I have to find out what distance is right for me and then start to train from there. So I'm going to start 30 seconds at the first distance, which is 4.5 feet. It would look like this. So that is 69 strides in 30 seconds. This is too short for me. I got to move the bumper out and find a distance where I'm getting 30 strides in 30 seconds. Okay, now to understand these distances a little better, This is an 8-foot board, and the first distance that I just did was 4.5 feet. And there's 5.5 feet, 6.5 feet, and 7.5 feet. On an 8-foot board, you can't totally go 8 feet, it's 7.5. That was too many strides for me. 69 strides in 30 seconds is too close. So we're moving it out to a 6.5 foot distance, and I'm trying to get 1 stride per second. It will look like this. So there we go, 46 strides, and this is still too short for me. So I'd have to move it out now to 7.5 feet, and that's gonna probably be too short. So we're gonna have to see, for me, doing 30 seconds, 30 strides in 30 seconds at 10 feet. That's why an older professional player is gonna look at a 10 or 12 foot distance. But for younger players, they're going to start off at the 30 and die. Okay, I'd like to comment now on how this process is supposed to work. So what we'll do is we'll find that distance where the player gets about 20 to 25 strides in 30 seconds. That's where we really want the player to start. In a short amount of time, the player is going to get stronger, faster, and quicker. And they're going to start to get 30 strides in 30 seconds till they get 35 strides in 30 seconds till they're reaching 40. When they're reaching 40 strides in 30 seconds, that's when we want to take that bumper and move it out another foot. So that'll bring the stride count back down to 20 to 25 until they build back up, and then we move the bumper out again. This is how we build stride frequency, stride strength, push-off force. We're now going to take a look at a set at 45 seconds. I'm trying the full 8-foot board, which is really 7.5 feet, for 45 seconds. It will look like this. So there we go, 61 strides in 45 seconds. Too short for me, but you have the idea. Now that I've recovered from that 45-second interval, we're going to take a look at a 60-second interval, and obviously that was too short for me, so now we've got the 10-foot board out here from Goaler 1, the G1 slide, and what I want you to notice is that this would be the longest shift we'd ever want. We really don't want players to skate for a minute, but I want you to see how the rate will slow down as I get towards the end of 60 seconds. The goal would be to be striding at the end of 60 seconds the same way we started in the beginning. It will look like this. now we met our match. 47 strides, 60 seconds. Okay, so now the question comes up as to how do we work out with this slide board? We've seen 30-second intervals, 45-second intervals, 60-second intervals. We've seen different distances. We've seen 4.5 feet, 5.5 feet, 6.5 feet, 7.5 feet. We've seen 10 feet. All right, we've seen different stride patterns, different recovery patterns, wide stride base, full recovery base. And then, so how do we work out on this? What happens is that when we study the youth hockey games and the professional games, a player takes an average of 12 shifts for a youth game and 18 shifts for a pro game. That would be like the most. And then those shifts could vary. They could be anywhere from 30, 45, 60 seconds in duration. So what we say is that we'd want to train a youth player in 12 sets. And we'd start training 12 sets at 30 seconds. Since there's usually 3 lines on a youth team, we would go 30 seconds on and we would rest for 1 minute. 30 seconds on, rest for a minute. We would do 12 of those. That would be a game, that's a workout. And you'd like your 12th set to have the same number of reps that the first set had. That way you're in condition, you're in shape. So if you can do that, if you can go from a 1 to 2 work to rest ratio, then you want to increase the training. So you're going to go to a 1-to-1 work rest ratio. You're going to go 30 seconds on and 30 seconds off. If you can do 12 of those without deteriorating your stride count, then you're going to go to 45 seconds. You're going to go 45 seconds on and 1.5 minutes off. 45 seconds on, 1.5 minutes off. And then you want to get that down to where you can go 45 seconds on and 45 seconds off, a 1-to-1 work rest ratio. Now we're going to 60 seconds. If you can handle it, you're going 60 seconds on and 2 minutes off, 2 minutes of rest. 60 seconds on, 2 minutes of rest. This is a program for college, junior, and pro players. If you can handle that, then you're going to try to get down to a 1-to-1 work rest ratio. You're going to go 60 seconds on, 60 seconds off, 60 seconds on, 60 seconds off. You're talking about now being an older, more advanced player. You want to try to get 14 to 18 of those reps in without deteriorating your stride count. Then you're in condition to play the game. Then you have stamina in the third period. If you do this, if any player does this, you'll see an amazing increase in stride speed, strength, knee bend, frequency, how fast you move. You won't believe how important of a tool this can be. And then last thing you should do is you should do this at least 3 to 4 times a week in the off season and 2 to 3 times during the season, depending on your practice and game ratio. Now we're taking a look at another way to train on the slide board. This is about some speed skating. A lot of times what speed skaters do is they'll hang a bar from the ceiling. We've put an apparatus here from the floor. But they put a bar that hangs down from the ceiling because players have a habit of doing this. They get on the bumper, they bend their knees, and when they push off, they go up. They go up instead of pushing to the side and having power go away from the body. They're losing force production into the ice. We see players on the ice that do this. They bob up and down, or they kick back with the back leg. So here's a way to ensure knee bend and full extension. Players are going to get under the bar. They want to maintain this position so that the back is underneath the bar and full push, recover, push. A variation on the slide board is to do speed skating strides. So here it's going to be made harder because we're in that severe bent over position, and we're going to put our arms behind our back so we can't swing our arms to get the extra propulsion. So we're down real low like this, and from this position we're going to hold that position and push off and slide. Another way to train on the slide board is with plyo ball throws. Here's the principle. We want to come in with greater weight and greater force into the bumper. So what we do is we push off and we slide across, and as I'm sliding across, RJ is throwing the ball really hard to me, and that throw is increasing my force and my stride into this board. As I come in then, I have to use greater strength to slow down, to stop, to use the eccentric contraction, and then I'm going to push off and under resistance throw the ball back. So it would look like this. And to the other side. Good. Okay. Another way to make the slide board training more difficult is to use the leg harness. Here we're talking about a bungee cord system that provides resistance up and down the leg. And so now as we make each stride, we're getting resistance in the range of movement. Another way that we can increase the difficulty on the slide board is by using the Sidewinder bungee. So here I've got a bungee cord attached in between my legs that's going to give me resistance when I go away, and it's also going to give me a spring back on the recovery. And the exercise would look like this. Another way that we can train on the slide board is by use of crossovers. Many people have never ever seen this exercise before. I developed this one myself on the slide board. So players are going to use the ski poles to help steady themselves to learn how to do this. They could also hold on to an apparatus or a bar. So with the inside leg, they're pushing underneath, crossing over, and sliding back across. Now for a greater level of difficulty, we're going to do crossovers without the ski poles. We'll look like this. Okay, now we're going to look at some extremely difficult training on the slide board. We're actually going to slide on the slide board with our skates on. We've got it set to the shortest distance first. It's going to look like this. Okay, now we've moved the slide board bumper out again, another foot. So we're looking at a 5.5 foot push. And I do want to comment on these because I do have a skate blade cover on the skate and then the booty on over that. So we don't have a player rip through the booty or damage their slide board. And again, it gets a little more difficult. You're sliding across in your skates. And again, we've moved the bumper out now to 6.5 feet. We're sliding with our skates on. Would look like this. And finally now, we're sliding on the slide board at the 7.5 foot distance with our skates on. Would look like this. Here we are back on the G1 Extreme. And here we're going to do a series of striding exercises from a stationary position. From the deep knee bend, we're going to extend our leg back. We're striding straight back and coordinating that arm swing. Back. Then from there, we can do strides out to the side at a 45-degree angle. So we're pushing out at an angle. And we can do strides straight out to the side at a 90-degree angle. So we're pushing straight out. There's one more exercise we can do from this stationary position, and that is to work on the push with the push underneath from a crossover position. So with the weight on the stability legs, the support leg, you're going to take that back leg and push underneath. Now we're going to take a look at these same exercises on the G1 Extreme with our skates on. It's actually more difficult, more of a core exercise and balance. So we're here in our low knee bend, and again, because we know we can push off at different angles, we're going to start by pushing back straight behind the body, holding that position, making sure we coordinate our arm swing, and pushing straight back. If we get the weight wrong on our foot, then the stability leg will slide out. And so from striding straight back, we can go to a 45-degree angle. And then we can go to a 90-degree angle where we're pushing straight out to the side. Another exercise we can do here is to work on the G1 Extreme with our cross under push. And it looks like this. We put all our weight on the stability leg, and we're going to take this outside leg, and we're going to bring it under and back, under and back. This is a very difficult exercise. I'm not so sure if you should try this at home. Warning, high caution. It's similar to the on-ice exercise where we were on one foot and we were jumping side to side. So trying to repeat that on a slide board would look something like this. We're now going to take a look at some different exercises that we can do on the slide board that train muscles that we use on the ice. First, we'll take a look at a lunge. So a forward lunge for knee strength. We're going to bring our knee out in front and we're going to bend down into this lunge position so we're straining the thigh and bringing that leg up and back down. Forward lunges on the board. Players want to do sets of 10 to 20 reps, maybe 2 or 3 sets. From here, we want to go to a cross-country skiing exercise. Now, we're talking about working the hip flexor muscle. The hip flexor muscle is responsible for bringing that leg back forward so we can stride again. It's a very important muscle. We're going to try to keep our legs straight and assume the cross-country ski position where we're pulling our leg front to back. Again, players will do 20 to 30 reps, 2 or 3 sets. We're now going to take a look at an abductor, adductor exercise where we're going to let both feet go out to the side and pull them back together. Both feet out and back. Our next exercise is a combination move. We're going to work on the adductors and abductors, and we're also going to push the weight above our head at the same time. So it looks like this. Our next shot is similar to the last. In the last one we did an overhead press. Now we're going to do shoulder shrugs. I do want to comment and say that these two exercises come from Jay Kirk and Goaler 1. So here we're looking at the exercise like this. AB and adductors and shoulder shrugs. Another way to work on the hip flexor muscle is to get into this bent over position and grab onto the bumper. Here we're going to practice pulling one knee up at a time, and we're going for quickness. So it's like this. Then a variation on this is to do a crossover where we turn the hips and looks like this. Another way that we can train on the slide board is by use of the Bosu ball. So here what's going to happen is we're going to drop down on one knee into the Bosu ball and let that outside leg slide out. Would look like this. In our next series of exercises, we're going to combine push-ups with core training. So here's our first exercise. We're going to take a push-up and make a slide across, all the way across the board. So it looks like this. Our next exercise then really emphasizes the core. We're going to take a push-up. We're going to pull our legs straight in underneath our body. So it'll be like this. Then a variation on this is to make a push-up and pull the knees outside the arms of the body. Would look like this. In our next exercise, we're going to make a push-up here. We're going to pull our knees in under to our chest. We're going to push our legs back out to the side at an angle and swing them back around. So it will look like this. Another variation on this then is to make that push up and pull one knee in at a time with the other leg up in the air. And that would look like this. In our next exercise here, we're going to make that push-up. We're going to pull our legs in, push our legs back out, push the legs out to the side, and lift one leg, and repeat the whole process. So it will look like this. Now we're going to hold this push-up position, and we're going to bring our legs back up to our body in a pike position. So we keep the legs straight, and then we're going to come back down and spread the legs back out to the side. So it looks like this. Another variation on this then is to bring our feet up into a pike position and roll our feet out to the side. Working the obliques would look like this. Our last exercise here on the slide board is to do a hamstring exercise. So we're going to get down on the slide board on our back and our shoulders. We're going to lift up with our hips, and we're going to pull in with the heels. So we're working the hamstrings. And then if we've done all those exercises, we can die.